Yo, welcome back to Cafe Zealot. The last 2 weeks have been pretty solid for Bleach news and insight. Kubo at the latest Bleach 1000-Year Blood War panel opened up the discussion by teasing the arrival of new characters. He said, "This time, we'll have more of those kind of scenes, those new aspects. I think there's something to get excited about. Even those who read Bleach back in Jump will discover something new, like new characters. I know personally, I would love to see more expansion on Genjo and the Fullbringer's part and helping out Ichigo in Core 4. Other quick takeaways if you missed it: Core 4 is officially delayed till 2026. Kubo apologized for the wait, but he emphasized they are working hard to make something truly great. Now, I have seen some other Bleach content creators, and I have seen some posts over on X state that 54% of the content in Core 4 will be brand new, up to 7 additional episodes of new content. Now, I'm not sure how true, if that's fact or cap, but at the same time, that is something to get excited about if that is true. Which, as someone familiar with Bleach, but just getting going in the Bleach fandom, that's amazing to hear that Kubo is spending so much time making sure that Bleach is going to get the finale that it deserves. Now, if you have been following my journey over on TikTok, I am officially in the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Stepping into Bleach has been one of the best decisions I've made as an anime fan, and if you want to walk the path with me, go ahead, hit subscribe, drop a like, and hit the notification bell to stay caught up with Cafe Zealot. Between TikTok and YouTube, I get asked a lot of amazing questions, but recently, one stood out. The question was, do you think the head captain is also symbolic of traditional Japanese or samurai sense of nobility and pride, and how being a slave to that pride has consequences? That question led me down a deep rabbit hole, one that connects the Gotei 13 to one of the most fascinating groups in Japanese history, the Shinsengumi. During the Boshin War, 1868 to 1869, the Shinsengumi, elite samurai loyal to the Tokugawa Shogunate, were outnumbered and outgunned by the modern imperial army. Despite their fierce resistance, they were ultimately defeated. By June 1869, with Vice Commander Hijikata's death and the surrender of remaining forces, the Shinsengumi were formally disbanded. They fought a losing war against the inevitable, the dawn of a new age, one seen as relics clinging to the past. They've since become romanticized as tragic heroes who died with honor rather than live in compromise. And that's where Bleach comes in. The parallels between the fictional Gotei 13 and the real-life Shinsengumi add depth to Kubo's writing and give us a great framework to explore a part of history you might not be familiar with. I'm excited to share the results of my research, and we'll break down the historical connections between the Gotei 13 and the Shinsengumi, exploring the ideology, structure, and real-world inspirations behind some of the last true samurai Japan will ever know. Within the world of Bleach, the Gotei 13 are the organized forces of Soul Society, effectively a standing army of Shinigami, Soul Reapers, who police the spirit world much as the Shinsengumi police Kyoto. Gotei 13 literally means 13 court guard squads, and as their name suggests, the organization is divided into 13 divisions, each led by a powerful captain and with the lieutenant as a second in command. These captains are the elite samurai of Soul Society, each a master of swordsmanship, battle tactics, and a special ability called bankai, the final release of their sword's power. Much like the Shinsengumi captains, Gotei 13 captains hold absolute authority within their squads. Their word is law to their subordinates. Each division has its own symbol, often a flower insignia, and culture reflecting the captain's leadership, just as each Shinsengumi unit bore its captain's personal family crest or style. And while the Shinsengumi's uniform was light blue, the Gotei uniform is a black kimono and hakama, but captains drape a distinctive white Haori coat marked with their squad number on the back, a proud banner of their identity. And at the head of the Gotei 13 stands the Captain Commander, a role analogous with Kondo's position for the Shinsengumi. For over 1,000 years, this post was held by the indomitable Genryusai Shigekune Yamamoto. Yamamoto founded the Gotei 13 ages ago and molded it into a fearsome fighting force to maintain cosmic balance. In him, we see a figure very much like Kondo Isame, reborn in the spirit world, a fatherly yet fearsome leader, fiercely protective of the old order. Yamamoto is ancient, rigid, and immensely powerful. He lives by a warrior's code and expects the same unwavering resolve from his troops. Under his command, the Gotei 13 upheld the laws of Soul Society with an almost fanatical zeal, as fans will recall from early Bleach arcs where captains like Byakuya would even execute their own family to obey the law. Yamamoto's creed of loyalty, order, and honor above all mirrors the Shinsengumi's ethos. It's often said that the true power of Soul Society lies in the captains of the Gotei 13. As long as they stand united, the old order is safe, but if they are broken, Soul Society is left vulnerable. Bleach's creator Kubo draws from theology, philosophy, and history. The Gotei 13 are essentially the Shinsengumi transposed into a fantasy afterlife, complete with formal ranks and feudal-era aesthetics. Consider these one-to-one comparisons between key figures. Kondo Isame and Yamato Gimryosai. Kondo led the Shinsengumi as a loyal protector of Kyoto, known in history as a horrible dog who barked for his masters, the shogun. He embedded fierce loyalty and was willing to die for his cause, which he ultimately did. Yamamoto, in turn, is the vulnerable leader of the Gotei 13, who devoted millennia to protecting the Soul Society's order. Commanding and uncompromising, Yamamoto too is loyal to a fault. He clings to tradition and order, even as the world around him falls apart. Both men serve as father figures to their subordinates and stand implacable against change. And in the end, both meet their demise with their era's collapse. Kondo is executed as the shogunate falls, and Yamamoto is slain when Soul Society is invaded by the Quincy, marking the end of the old era of the Gotei 13. Hijikata Toshizo and Byakuya Kuchiki. Hijikata, the demon vice commander, was the enforcer of the Shinsengumi's law, harsh, dutiful, and emotionally reserved. He even compelled his own friend to commit seppuku for desertion, prioritizing code over sentiment. Byakuya, the noble captain of Squad 6, shares this icy law before life mentality. Initially in Bleach, Byakuya rigidly holds up Soul Society's rules, even if it means watching his sister Rukia executed for crimes she didn't commit, earning him a reputation for cold honor. Both men are stoic, disciplined, and formidable, carrying an almost regal poise. They each hide an inner conflict between personal feelings and duty. Hijikata's tough love for his men versus his devotion to the rules, and Byakuya's love for his family versus the laws he swore to obey, the parallels in personality are clear, unyielding honor on the outside with a storm of loyalty and sacrifice within. Okita was the Shinsengumi's sword genius, a young prodigy who was deadly on the battlefield yet gentle and playful with friends. Despite coughing up blood with tuberculosis, he remained cheerful and fought with peerless skill until physically he couldn't anymore. Ukitake reflects much of Okita's story. He too is exceptionally talented at a young age, carrying the burden of leadership far beyond his time. Both Okita and Ukitake are somber old souls in young bodies, disciplined, dedicated, and tragically admirable. One might even note that Okita's famous smile in the face of death is akin to Ukitake's cool composure under sickness and pressure. Neither allows personal suffering to deter them from duty. If there's a true parallel to Kenpachi, it's not the refined prodigies like Okita or the stoic tacticians like Hajikata. It's Harada Sanosuke, the captain of the Shinsengumi's 10th unit. Harada was a spear-wielding warrior known for his raw power, fearless nature, and relentless thirst for battle. Like Kenpachi, he fought with an untamed style, driven not by duty alone, but by the pure thrill of combat. He wasn't the most disciplined or polished, but he stood on the front lines with unmatched tenacity and pride. Both men represent a more chaotic, instinct-driven side of the warrior spirit, loyal in their own way, but impossible to fully control. Whether others fought for order, Harada and Kenpachi fought for the joy of the clash itself, the ecstasy of strength meeting resistance. Beyond individual characters, nearly every aspect of the Gotei 13 echoes the Shinsengumi's samurai spirit. The Soul Society's laws, enforced by Central 46 and the nobles, function much like the Shinsengumi's code. Leaving the organization without permission was treason. Just as a Soul Reaper who deserts or betrays Soul Society is marked for execution, think of Kisuke Urahara's exile or the hunt for Aiza and his co-conspirators, the sense of brotherhood among squad members, the reverence for one's captain, and the willingness to die for honor are all hallmarks of both groups. Even the visual of named swords is a parallel. Shinsengumi members practice specific sword styles and name signature techniques, while Bleach and Shinigami have named swords, Zanpakuto, with unique abilities. Kubo effectively took the feudal military framework of the late Edo period and overlaid it into a spiritual fantasy organization.
Don't you worry. Squad 11 is right outside the gate. We'll be safe here.
How I dislike conflict. It is so disagreeable.
The most fascinating layer of this historical parallel is how Bleach's final arc, the war between the Gotei 13 and the Sternritter, elite Quincy Knights, can be read as an allegory for the fall of the Tokugawa Shogunate and the transition into the Meiji era. In this interpretation, the Soul Society's old regime, led by Yamamoto and his captains, represents the Tokugawa order, and the invading Quincy army represents the forces of change that bring the old order crashing down. In the Thousand Year Blood War arc, the Quincy king Yhwach and his Sternritter launch a sudden invasion of the Soul Society after centuries in hiding. The initial attack is devastating. Many veteran captains are wounded or killed, and the captain commander, Yamamoto himself, is struck down by the Quincy king. This moment, Yamamoto's death, is symbolically akin to the fall of the shogun's capital, or the resignation of Tokugawa Yoshinobu. It marks the end of an era. Yamamoto had ruled Soul Society's military for over 1,000 years, just as the Tokugawa family ruled Japan for over 260 years. His loss leaves Soul Society in shock and disarray, paralleling the collapse of the samurai government. In Bleach, the Quincy invasion forces the Soul Society to fundamentally change. Long-held traditions and powers, like the bankai of the captains, are taken away or rendered ineffective by the Quincy, reflecting how the samurai was outclassed by modern weapons and Western tactics during the Meiji Restoration. The Sternritter even used firearms, spiritual guns and arrows, and advanced techniques, invoking the modern rifles and cannons that mowed down sword-wielding samurai on the battlefield of the Bushin War. The ideological clash is also noteworthy. The Quincy under Yhwach seek to overthrow the Soul King and remold the world, essentially tearing down the old spiritual order in favor of a new one of their design. This has echoes of the Isshin Shishi, imperial loyalists overthrowing the shogunate to restore power to the emperor and revolutionize Japan. An historical fact, Japan's forced opening to the West in the 1850s and the slogan, "Revere the Emperor, Expel the Barbarians," led to a violent confrontation between the old guard and those who wanted to remake the nation. In Bleach, one could say, "Revere the Emperor, Yhwach, Expel the Barbarians, Soul Reapers," isn't too far off from the Quincy rallying cry. The Sternritter even referred to Yhwach as Your Majesty and operate as a militaristic empire, the Wonderreich or Invisible Empire. It's a clash of quasi-religious vision versus tradition. It's Yhwach's almost godlike ambition to end death itself versus Yamamoto's staunch adherence to the status quo of the Soul Society. Furthermore, just as the Shinsengumi fought desperately but ultimately in vain to stop the Meiji Revolution, the Gotei 13 and the Blood War arc suffered catastrophic losses. Squad by squad, they are pushed to the brink. We watch as stalwart captains are defeated or even killed, reflecting the tragic fates of the real Shinsengumi heroes. By the climax of the war, the old Gotei 13 as we knew it is effectively no more. A number of familiar captains are gone or changed, and a new generation must step up. Bleach ends with the Soul Society that has weathered its own civil war, and moving into a new era under new leadership with Shunsui, a more easygoing and modern-minded captain, taking Yamamoto's place, much as younger reformist leaders took charge in Japan after 1868. The parallel is clear. The Sternritter's onslaught serves as the restoration that forces Soul Society out of its static, isolationist past into a new, uncertain future. Even specific scenes invite historical comparison. In the last moments, Yamamoto is cut down and his body is left reaching out. In a way, one could view his death as a form of metaphorical seppuku, the only fitting end for a Shinigami of his caliber. Just as many samurai leaders chose to die by their own hand rather than lead to see their lord or heir fall. You live by the blade, you die by the blade. There's no better way to go, as the saying goes. And it's a powerful image of a man who embodied the old ways, literally being killed by the new order. Yamamoto holding on to the old ways and holding on to Yhwach, it reminds me of Hijikata's death poem. Though my body may decay, my spirit guards my lords in the east. Whether intentional or not, Kubo's narrative allows this rich historical allegory. It adds a layer of depth to Bleach. The Thousand Year Blood War isn't just a battle between Soul Reapers and Quincy's, but a clash of eras. the last stand of an old samurai-like guard against the tide of a new world. This makes the story all more epic and tragic, especially for viewers familiar with the story of the Shinsengumi. Its history echoed in fantasy. It's the fall of the samurai, replayed in the spirit realm.
I have nothing to fear, because I am here, and there is no greater security than that.
Behind these parallels lies the philosophical backbone that connects them. Bushido, the code of the samurai. The Shinsengumi lived and died by Bushido principles, and the characters of Bleach often demonstrate the same ethos of honor, sacrifice, and duty that fueled samurai like Kando and Hijikata. It's no surprise as Soul Society in Bleach is modeled on a feudal Japanese society where concepts of honor and loyalty carry tremendous weight. Bushido taught a set of core virtues that guided samurai behavior. Among these were gi, righteousness, the courage to do what is right, even if it costs one's life. A true warrior must have unwavering integrity and justice in their actions. Think of Captain Yamamoto's strict sense of justice. He would sacrifice himself and others if it meant eradicating great evil, as seen in his willingness to scorch Soul Society to destroy Yuhabaha. Then there's Yu. Courage, not just bravery in battle, but heroic courage, a willingness to face danger or death without fear. In Bushido, cowardice is dishonorable. One should meet challenges head on. So many Bleach characters embody this. For instance, Renji charging into battle against Byakuya, or Ichigo leaping into Soul Society to save Rukia. They display a fearless commitment to action. Jin, benevolence or compassion. True warriors should show kindness and compassion, protecting the weak and helping others at every opportunity. This aspect of Bushido is about using one's strength for good. We see this in characters like Sanjin Kamamura, who is tough but inspiring and caring to his subordinates, or Captain Unohana's nurturing side as Squad 4's healer. In Rei, respect, politeness and respect, even towards one's enemies. A samurai, or soul reaper, must maintain dignity and courtesy, showing respect where it's due. Ikkaku exemplifies Rei in his demeanor, always poised, even when fighting Ichigo. The way samurai or even Shinigami address each other with honorifics, and how duels in Bleach often carry an undercoat of mutual respect, also reflect this virtue. Other virtues of Bushido include Makito, honesty and sincerity, Mayo, honor, Chugi, loyalty, and Jisei, self-control. Notably, the Shinsengumi banner bore Makito, underscoring how vital sincerity and loyalty were to them. In Bleach, the sheer loyalty of the Gotei 13, their cause, captains willing to die for Soul Society without hesitation, speaks to honor and loyalty as paramount values. It's fascinating to see how deep Bushido runs in Bleach's themes. The series frequently stresses concepts like honor in battle and the weight of one's word. The way of the warrior still lives on, whether on the battlefield or the pages of shonen manga. Bleach's Gotei 13 and the Sternritter conflict isn't just a fantastical war. It's a rich, complex narrative sewed with the threads of Japanese history and philosophy. Kubo's story can be seen as the dramatic end of the samurai era, as what emerges will change Soul Society forever.
Now farewell, Shigi Kuni Yamamoto.
I was inspired to do this video based on a comment off one of my TikTok videos. We examined Bleach from so many different angles, theology, philosophy. It was nice to take a moment and examine Bleach from a historical angle. Drawing a nice comparison to the Shinsengumi, we gain a new appreciation for the depth of Bleach's world building, or for those who like to draw connections in art, it's a fun framework to examine the story. If you are more intrigued by these parallels, delving into the Shinsengumi history can be incredibly rewarding and surprisingly familiar. If you don't want to crack open a history book, you might do what many of us did, discover it through pop culture. There are great portrayals of the Shinsengumi in anime and games. For example, Peacemaker Kurogane follows a young boy who joins the Shinsengumi and intersects with figures like Hijikata and Okita, bringing their world to life. And recent manga and anime like The Blue Wolves Amiibo also dramatize the Shinsengumi's story with a fresh perspective. Even video games like a Dragon Ishin immerse yourself into the Bakumatsu period. You might find yourself pushing to Google the real events and the people you encounter. Thank you all for stopping by the cafe. Let me know your thoughts or maybe connections I missed in Bleach. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. And that's all for me. Peace out, Zealots.